The next type of nonverbal communication that we have to study is vocalics. Vocalics is the study of paralanguage, and we've mentioned paralanguage previously, ever so briefly, but our paralanguage includes things like the pitch of our voice, the volume at which we speak, the rate at which we speak, as well as our vocal quality and our verbal fillers. So let's break these down one by one. The pitch of our voice helps to convey meaning, regulate conversational flow, and communicate the intensity of a message. So we all have these patterns in our speech where our voices go up and down based on what we are saying. And when we are speaking, we generally want to avoid like a monotone voice where we're just saying the same word, we're saying the words at all of the same tone, and we just kind of keep talking and droning on and on like a boring teacher might, right? That demonstrates how important pitch can be when it comes to engagement in a message. And then we have volume. Volume helps to communicate intensity and provides context for the message that you are giving. And volume can be really powerful because if you're in an interpersonal relationship and you are speaking really quietly, that might communicate to your partner that what we're talking about is very serious, and it causes them to have to lean in a little bit more in order to hear what you're saying. But if you are yelling in an interpersonal relationship, then that could possibly communicate anger to the other person. And I'm trying not to go too loud so I don't blow your eardrums out, right? But volume is a really important part of the way that we communicate with one another. And the rate at which we speak also has an impact on the way that a message is received. Because if you are talking too quickly in an interpersonal relationship and the person who you're talking to can't really keep up with what you're saying, then they're not going to be able to understand the message that you're trying to send out, and ultimately the relationship might deteriorate because they didn't understand what you were trying to say, right? But at the same time, you don't want to speak too slowly because that can end up alienating the person that you are talking to because they are just waiting for the next word to come out, right? So be mindful of how loudly you're speaking, how quickly you're speaking, and all of those different things. In addition, we want to pay attention to the quality of our voice and the tone of our voice. And the tone of our voice can be controlled somewhat by our pitch, our volume, our rate, and especially our emphasis. And this is what I want to talk about here. So the emphasis that you put on the different words of your message can actually completely alter the meaning of that message. Take a look at the sentence that's on the screen right now. I never said she stole my money. This sentence changes its meaning depending on the emphasis and my vocal tone. So for example, I never said she stole my money. 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 Depending on the emphasis that I put on each of those sentences that I just said, it completely changed the meaning of the sentence. When I said, I never said she stole my money, putting the emphasis on the word I, my message is that I never said that she stole it, right? Maybe somebody else did. Whereas if I say, I never said she stole my money, now I'm saying, yeah, I never said that she stole my money. I never said that maybe she stole someone else's money instead. Or I never said that she stole my money. Maybe she stole something else. So we have to be mindful of our vocalics and of our paralanguage because it can completely change the meaning of the sentence that we're trying to get across. And this is also why text messages and emails can be so difficult to interpret, because that vocal tone isn't there. So you don't know necessarily where the emphasis is. And so the final part of vocalics that we want to talk about here are the verbal fillers. Verbal fillers fill the gaps in our speech as we try to think of what we want to say next. And this is a part of nonverbal communication because these are not words that have any particular meaning. So we use words like and like whenever we are having trouble connecting our next thought to the next thought. And so we tend to use verbal fillers to keep the floor during a conversation, to indicate to the other person that we are not done speaking yet. And verbal fillers are a really tricky part of communication because in some cases they can become so present in our messages that they actually detract from the messages. And so in some cases we want to just get comfortable with that silence that might exist in between our thoughts. Because generally speaking, what's happening when we use a verbal filler is that our brains and our mouths are moving at different paces. And so when our brains and our mouths don't quite catch up with one another, that's when we use or and we don't necessarily want to try to avoid using verbal fillers because they're going to happen. But you do want to become more aware of the verbal fillers that you are using so that you can try to at least reduce the number of verbal fillers in your speech patterns so that they don't interfere with the messages that you are trying to send. So as you can see, vocalics are a vital part of your nonverbal communication and can really change the way that we are communicating with one another.